fun begins.
How's it going?
Hello.
Well,
Greetings, young Jedi.
hello there.
What's up, everyone? Hybrid Toy Reviews here, and today we are taking a look at a really cool Star Wars Black Series 2-pack. This is the Revenge of the Sith, Mace Windu, and Darth Sidious 2-pack. This was a New York Comic-Con exclusive set, I do believe, and it is a 2-pack featuring another Mace Windu, and the Emperor. He has his Ian McDiarmid normal-looking face, his Sheev Palpatine face, and then he comes with a swappable head to make him the Emperor, because as you see on this very premium-looking packaging, this is based on when Mace Windu bounced his lightning back on him, revealing the face of the Dark Lord of the Sith. So, it is a really cool set, obviously in some premium packaging, which we are going to take an in-depth look at, but just quick initial glance, really cool. So let's do the packaging shot and get into it. And here is the 2-pack, and it looks really nice. It is a matte black box with a glossy, artsy image of the Emperor lightninging Mace Windu and him reflecting it back. You have your Black Series logo in yellow up top there. You have Revenge of the Sith across the front. Mace Windu and Darth Sidious 4+, warning Hasbro. This side is matte and has the character names. This side has your Black Series logo and some of the lightning trails across. Black Series logo up top, barcode and legal stuff down below. Around back, all matte, a little bit of lightning makes its way across the back. Your Black Series logo again, a bio about the scene in multiple languages, pause and read whichever best fits you. Some more legal stuff around back. Now this packaging features a band that slips off. See, snug fit. And then it opens up, revealing the flaps have images of Palpatine's office window out of them, which is really cool. But then it reveals our figure 2-pack with Mace Windu and the Emperor. Bunch of lightning in there, your alternate heads, because Mace Windu gets a grimacing face. It makes it so much different from all the other Mace Windus we definitely have. And Sidious is wearing a soft goods outfit. I've seen a lot of complaints about it. I'm going to form my own opinion. I haven't handled it yet. I think it's a little rough looking all bunched up in there, but it might look better after I pose it a little bit. So we will take an in-depth look. Let's open it up now and see how these guys handle in person. Alright, here we have Mace Windu and Sidious out of the packaging. Something I wanted to point out is actually in the packaging. This portion of the backdrop does slide out, it's like the bottom frame of the window and, the Coruscant skyline. You could make a little on-shelf display with that, them dueling with the shattered window, which would be a really cool little special display, and it's nice that the backdrop was included. But overall, let's go ahead and jump into this. So, I've got some thoughts. I generally don't like some of the stuff going on here. So keep in mind $60 price tag, and that's kind of where we're at. So let's go ahead and start with Mace Windu, because he's the least new here. So Mace Windu is essentially a repack with a new head. We have his purple-bladed lightsaber with an unpainted gray hilt, and then they've punched in the black and the gold, but they didn't do the silver. It looks very cheap. It doesn't look very premium at all. And then it has the purple blade, which does look really nice. It's one of those things where it's been issued so many times before. I mean, like, let me just put these guys up as like a permanent background reminder of just how many Mace Windus we've gotten in the line so far. And that's not including the Phantom Menace retro-carded reissue. So, this is like the worst depiction of Mace's lightsaber to date in the line, and it's just unfortunate that it got cheaped out on. It does feature the removable blade element, which is nice. However, movie Mace Windu does not get a peg on it, nor a hole on his belt. Both animated Mace Windus rectify that. No, correction, only 03 Mace Windu got that. 08 Mace Windu did not get a peg hole on the belt. So, the cloak is similar, the body's entirely reused, and then we do get this nice gritted teeth Sam Jackson likeness, which is really nice, I gotta say. It looks like Sam Jackson, when he's kind of like, like leaning into the saber duel a bit. It is a nice battle expression. It's a little bit rough when you just stick him on the shelf with all your other Jedi, but thankfully he does have the swappable head, which pops off, and then you can pop this one on, and you get a much more relaxed Sam Jackson Mace Windu, and that is the same head sculpt that we've had since the Red Box era. However, they have lightened his skin tone just a little bit. The original one was a much darker shade of brown. I feel like the new one actually might be a little bit more too pale, potentially. But the photoreal is a little bit crisper on the new one. So I will give it credit where it's due. I don't think it's bad. But otherwise, this is a figure from 2018, abouts. We'll pull off the soft goods Jedi robe just to give you a look. I mean, this was, admittedly, there are some parts that are not bad, right? This was one of the first figures in the line in that era where they started doing the butterfly joints and stuff. So, like, his arm articulation, really nice stuff up there. And even though it's got, like, the Jedi tunic, like, flap laying over, it's very, very soft, so it doesn't affect the shoulder articulation much. But then you have double pinned knees with thigh swivel, and it's just ugly. And it's like, Hasbro, this is your Comic-Con exclusive you're offering, this is your premium. Figures at the time that this came out, were $25. They're $27 now, so even if you're using modern prices, it's a $55 2-pack being sold for $60, and we can't even get some new Mace Windu legs. Like, Hasbro, what are you doing? It just sucks that on something that's supposed to be like the best of the best, we're seeing some very, very old junky articulation, I gotta say. I don't hate the Black Series Mace Windu, but I just think he could be done a lot better. And I wish that we never got him in 2018. I wish that we got him in like 22, 23, 24, like when the articulation started getting really good on these guys. So it's just very, very frustrating getting something that's supposed to be very premium and definitive, and then getting something so old and outdated in places. But other than the articulation being very sucky, I mean, for what paint he has, it is cleanly applied. I like the cylinders on the belt, the little rivets him and hit. Around back, they don't do anything around back. I don't expect that from Hasbro. I don't critique it, because why would they start doing something now that they've never done ever? But it's a nice looking sculpt. Just the articulation is supremely dated, and that makes him a little bit frustrating. We've all messed with a Mace Windu figure at this point, so I'm not even going to get too hung up on him. But I'm just going to put him back in the Council of Maces. Because let's be fair, we bought this $60 2-pack. I'm not a hostage pack claimer. I hate that term generally. But we did buy this 2-pack for Sheev, and we will take a quick look at him and his accessories. So he does come with a alternate head with a laughing, very teeth-bared, very, very ugly face, but that's fitting, with his hair all ruffled around, and it looks really good. The standard one does not have like the open mouth. It's kind of got like a, he's smiling a little bit. He's a sneering, but this is like a battle laughing emperor, and it looks really, really good. I do like that. We will swap that out in a little bit. Setting that aside, he then comes with his red-bladed lightsaber. It is very red. It's almost a touch of orange even on that blade. But the hilt, also unpainted. The Emperor has one of the most ornate, decorated hilts in the saga. It is supposed to be very premium, very expensive. It is supposed to look royal, and it is just flat gray plastic with a couple little gold punches, and I find it disrespectful to the Emperor. I really hate these unpainted hilts. It's gonna very much date some figures exclusively to 2025. The blade is removable. There is no peg for belt storage, because he doesn't really belt store his saber. It kind of just lives up his sleeve mostly, and so you just gotta pretend on that one. Otherwise, it's another reissue of the Emperor's saber we got on the Darth Sidious. The same sculpt, just it was painted and not sucky. So it's it's just unfortunate that it's been done better before, and then on this premium expensive offering, they start cutting the corners. Then he comes with these lightning hands, and I really do like the blue. The blue is very bold. It is translucent lightly, but it is mostly solid, and the lightning patterns are very unique. And then the hands look very nice. You know, lightning's not coming from every fingertip, but it's coming from many fingertips. And these are, of course, blue plastic, so they're painted to look like the Emperor's skin tone, but you do get a little bit of see-through in the fingertips, but you could argue that's like the light. You know, you can justify it if you want. And something that I do really like with these, and I'm guessing it was on purpose, I haven't heard anyone talk about it. If you actually look at the lightning pattern, there's like one arc, and then it kind of like bounces back. So I think these are like very specifically meant to be redirecting at the Emperor, getting him shocked. And if you look, it's not a closed loop, but there is a spot that the lightsaber fits very well through on both of these. And so I think you're kind of meant to put them on the Emperor, intertwine them with the mace, and have them deflecting lightning back at the Emperor, which actually is a really, really cool thing about these. I'm not big on like effect pieces or stuff like that, but you could pose him battling, you know, Windu, and like have them in a really cool pose. I might end up using those, so we'll see what goes on there. And then here we have Sheev himself. I've heard a lot of complaints about his costume being entirely soft goods. And while I generally think there is a lot of over-hate for soft goods, I think these definitely could have been done a little bit better. I don't mind the like dark, you know, maroon like underlayer, but the red outer layer I think should have been a very pliable, rubbery plastic overlay. Something that would get out of the way of the articulation. I think when you go this heavy, it's just very plain. You know, he has some patterning on that outer robe. There's a lot of stitching and line work and stuff in it. And then it just comes across as very flat and red. Effectively, it does look the part. And like, I'm okay putting him on the shelf as is. I think Lance Peter Luke did make a custom outer lay that some people then can like resin print and like sell on Etsy. So there are options if you want to upgrade it. However, I just don't think this set should require upgrading for the cost and for what you're actually getting. It is like the Darth Sidious single pack we got in that the body underneath is actually Book of Boba Fett Luke Skywalker. I don't mind that because it's a very generic tunic, you know, with some black pants and black wraps on some boots. I don't mind the reuse to that whatsoever. It's kind of just what it is, and I get it, and I generally like that figure. I think it's got good articulation. It's to the Emperor's benefit. So yeah, I don't despise it. You know, I mean, the base body's all right, and I don't like the under robe. It's just the outer robe I think could have been executed a bit better, or even just print on it. You know, Barriss Offee last year has printing on her cloak, and so I mean, obviously Hasbro can do textured fabric. I just think this leaves a little bit to be desired. So looking at the likeness, that is a very good Ian McDiarmid. I've met the guy. He's just as handsome in person as he is here. I like the salt and pepper blonde going gray going on for the hair. It looks good. You know, he's got a very neutral expression, you know, hiding some sinister thoughts, of course. A little bit of a wash in the hair. It just makes the texture pop. And it just looks really good. I like what's going on here. And then, if you want to do the head swap, you got to pull his whole neck out of there, and then you set that aside, and now you can have a baconated, crispied Emperor. You got to give it a good push. It doesn't even really pop. It just kind of goes on. But now you have the Emperor's true face, you know, been revealed by Mace Windu, and it's a really expressive face, and that's a heck of a look. I like how in the movie he almost immediately like manifests a robe over himself. You know, the Emperor without a hood is a little bit of an eyesore. So, but that's all right. He does look really nice. Ultimately, I do like this figure a lot, and Just, other than the soft goods, I really like the likenesses. I don't like the lack of paint on the saber hilts. The outer costume leaves a bit to be desired, but I do generally still like this figure. I'm going to swap him back to Sheev mode at this point, and let's run through some articulation. This is a body that we haven't gone through as many times, but he features the double ball neck system, allowing him to look that far up, that far down, side to side, and he's got some pivot. From there, he can do a T-pose. There's a pretty good butterfly joint buried in there. He can bend his elbows way past 90, and then he has rotation at the wrists, and then I think they all go up and down, and then the lightning hands go, like side like that. He has a mid-torso ball joint, allows him to crunch that far forward, which is nice. That far back, also nice. You can get some rotation in there. The legs can do a pretty wide split. You can kick pretty straight forward, a tiny little bit back. Upper thigh rotation, single joint in knees, go a little past 90, swivel at the knee. No boot cut, but that's okay. And then the feet can point pretty far down, a little bit forward, and there's a forward-facing pin for rocker, letting you get him in some decently wide stances with both feet flat on the ground. So yeah, getting him stood back up, I don't know. You layer the costume right, you get it to lay good around him. It's not like the worst, but yeah, that outer red piece definitely could have served better if it was a softer, pliable plastic. So here we have Mace and Sheev with a number of friends. I have the Windu gang hanging out behind them. The Kit Fisto they reissued on Retro Card technically had a different mask on the costume in Revenge of the Sith, but I'll forgive it. It fits. And then the new Anakin and Commander Cody from last year, all characters that kind of roughly fit into this portion of the era. They scale well, they kind of blend in like height-wise with other characters. And that portion of this is something that I am generally satisfied with, I will say. So the lightnings were too long, and I needed help from a little piece of cardboard to get them both on the spinning stand. But I did want to pose them battling at the very end here. I gotta say, my overall thoughts on this set, it was $70 after shipping. It was $59.99 if you had a Pulse, premium with free shipping included. And my big thing here is just, man, I really didn't need another Mace Windu, and the Emperor leaves a little bit to be desired, but I'm not as critical of the Emperor. These San Diego or New York Comic-Con packs are supposed to be like the really cool thing of the year. And the year before, we had the Stap and the Darth Maul speeder, and I know allegedly they're flops because they didn't sell out immediately, but it's supposed to be something cool. And when you do a figure 2-pack for one of those, I'm not saying you can't, but when you do a figure 2-pack, I want them to be like good figures, like this is your premium offering, and this is supposed to be like the exclusivist, coolest thing of the year. And the Anakin and Obi-Wan Duel on Mustafar pack was exactly that. And the Emperor and Mace Windu pack just really leaves a lot to be desired. When you're going to charge the price of 2 figures plus a few extra dollars, and then one of them is like an 8-year-old repack, and the other one is, not the best it could be. I don't know. Part of me really wishes it was just a single figure pack, and it was almost maybe done in the style of like the Thrawn office from a couple years ago. Like, give me like a cardboard like Sheev's desk and stuff, with some things around the office, his relics, his little statues and busts and stuff, his Sith artifacts, stuff that they sell you at Galaxy's Edge only, and then give me like a really good, Sheev with the lightning hands and the swappable head and a painted lightsaber hilt, maybe give me 2 lightsabers, if I wanted to go a little more Clone Wars with them. I don't know. But, I'd have almost preferred it be like a $50, $60, like really kitted out Emperor instead of a middle of the road Emperor with a really sucky Mace Windu. And so that's kind of my final thoughts. I wish I liked it more. I really do. Because this set was out of stock for a long time, and I was right on the brink. Like, I was going to be ordering it in January no matter what. I didn't want aftermarket prices to get too high on it. I figured it wasn't going to restock. I was ready to drop the $100 it was going for on eBay. And I am so glad I didn't. I'm so glad that Pulse restocked it, although it seems to be out of stock again. And I don't know if they're going to restock because, as I understand it from a conversation with Hasbro people, the move going forward is the convention packs are not going to restock as much as they used to. They're pretty much going to be, once they're gone, they're gone. So it was really cool this one restocked. And I'm glad I got it for cheaper than the aftermarket rates, because the aftermarket rates would leave me very frustrated on this. So that's all I really got to say. Thanks for listening to me yap. What are your thoughts on the set? Did you pick it up? Did you miss it? Are you glad you missed it? Let me know in the comments down below. May the Force be with each and every one of you, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.